Speaking of road trips, Mike Benton's made several. Not a lot lately, though. He's the host now, Seattle Kraken games on KJR Radio. There he is with the trusted shirt. Mike, what's your paddock level at 0-2-1 of the Seattle Kraken here in this opening week of the regular season?
Hey, Rod. Hey, thanks first for having me here. I would say on a scale of, 0 to full tilt, it maybe is at a 0.5 right now. I mean, last week, a 3-game road trip, it was a 5-layer dip of really what could have been. And the Kraken said they left a lot on the table. I mean, that first game against Vegas, I mean, they're just flat out rolling right now. And they flexed their muscle in that opening night game. And the Kraken had also a 5-minute major power play, which came up empty. And you figure, you get 1 or 2 goals or down by 2, that could have easily turned that game on its head. It didn't happen. Nashville, things fell apart in the middle of the second period, and Dave Axtell, from a few accounts, had a very, very intense skate waiting for the guys the very next day after in St. Louis. So in St. Louis, things you could sense began to turn around a little bit. It was a tight game, but you saw the Kraken skate. They had puck control. They had their special teams going, and you saw more ingredients that were akin to success of last season. And Joey Decor, now backing up Philip Grubauer, was very, very good in net. So there are good signs now that are brewing and moving right toward the top here for this team. That's going to continue here this week because even though they're going to be at home, they've got Colorado up next, then the Hurricanes, then the Rangers. That's not going to be easy.
You know, here on the telecast of Saturday's Florida Panthers loss at Winnipeg, Jeff Chikrin, TV analyst for the Panthers, said, it's good to be on the road. Get these Kinks out on this opening road trip before coming home for the home opener. That's kind of the Kraken road map. Is that what you're thinking? And did you kind of just say that in Coach Hackstall too?
Yeah, well, I kind of get the sense where, when you go on the road, and for a Kraken team that was very good on the road last season, they were able to simplify their game. And I touched on this earlier as well. They play a very delicate, intricate system that incorporates a ton of detail. I mean, you've got to skate, and skate, until, your eyes are going to fall out of your head, basically. And in those first week or 2 weeks, you can have details that fall apart, but, going on the road is very, very good for team camaraderie. We got the sense from that. We got the sense from that last year when they were able to, move away from their own home bed. You have a lifestyle that incorporates game rink, practice, hotel, maybe the rinse, repeat. That's where they can clear their mind and simplify things. So on the side, at least, that's where I think being on the road for the first week had that advantage. And now you come back home to where, life becomes a little bit more complex, a bit more layered here. So as far as on-ice stuff, those details are still being worked out right now. But to be on the road here for the first week for a team that relies so much on the interpersonal side with team bonding and everyone pitching in, pardon the cliche, that's where you find value in being on the road for those first 3 games.
So you mentioned the home opener, and I got friends going. They're very excited about it. That's Tuesday night against the Colorado Avalanche, a rematch of last year's startling playoff series. What's got you excited about it, and what is exciting about that game, Mike?
Well, I think first off, back to Game 6 in the second round against the Dallas Stars, and just how loud the building was. I really hate using hyperbole when it comes to crowd volume and noise. And, I haven't been to Montreal for a playoff game. Someday I hope to be. I haven't been to Chicago for a playoff game, but I've been to nearly 30 Stanley Cup playoff games in my life, from a previous line of work, or even just as a fan back in the 90s when I was a kid growing up. And my first taste was, seeing Wayne Gretzky up close in Southern California, the Paul Kariya, Teemu Selanne duo. And you really understood just how much more intense the crowd volume is, engagement for playoff games like that. San Jose is well known to blow the roof off the place. I've been there before. Game 6 in Dallas, and I ran this by a few folks also who have been to other places. For me, it was the loudest I've ever heard a playoff building, and for many else, they said it was among the loudest they've ever heard a playoff game. So tying all this in, that left us with, a taste in our mouth for these last 5 months in this summer, where we couldn't wait around here to experience a home game environment once again. That's what the home opener to me is all about, to get in front of these fans once again, to hear, 17,000 plus on this team's side as well, and to really understand how much this team and this fan base and this city has grown together collectively here over the last 2 seasons. The Avalanche, as far as the on-ice stuff, it's going to be a tough matchup. I mean, they come back essentially the same crew intact, added Jonathan Drouin there, of course. But, for me, we saw just how well a guy like Nathan MacKinnon plays. When he's on edge, he's angry, he's intense. And, you talk to any team who loses a 7-game series, that's a bitter taste in their mouth. So the Kraken really have to expect that Colorado is going to give them everything they've got coming up here on Tuesday night. That's going to be a great game.
Last one for you. I don't know if you're familiar with Reed Johnson from the Markcast. It's a podcast out of Seattle. He was on with us last week from Vegas, and he brought up, he always gives me an Eberle report because my guy is Jordan Eberle, and somewhere I missed that Ebbs has said he hopes to end his career in Seattle. I mean, I know he loves it. Is that something he said recently, and what are the chances of that, and how big of a part of this team is my good friend?
Yeah, I'll buy that. I mean, Jordan Eberle, he's a veteran status, Rod, as you know. He's been around the league so much, and we think about how much he's come along since his days as a Regina Pat, where he's at that phase of his career where he's got full leverage to do what he wants on his own terms, and even though he's going to go into a contract year, he could easily just say, I'm going to keep my options open. I want to do what's best here for my family, but he got out in front of this nearly day one of training camp, and he said, I've made my stance clear. My family loves it here. I love it here. I want to be here long term for this next phase. And really, to be quite honest here, when you find a place that just doesn't suit your career but your family, you begin to think of things from a long-term perspective of, what happens when I'm done playing? What's this next step? Where Jordan Eberle goes, that is still a mystery right now at this point. But that first year was very telling, I think, for me, when the Kraken brought in a huge collection of veterans. And, you had really kind of a mixed bag of guys that said, I want to be here, or guys who wouldn't commit. And they were just saying, I'm going to kind of bide my time. And if I move on, I move on. Jordan Eberle was the former. He has been all in for this team, which means matters have clicked for him around here in Seattle, and he's a guy I see who can be carrying this flag for this franchise for a long, long time. I love my talks with him. Every conversation I hear from him, he says something that I basically learn brand new each day, and he's one of my first go-to guys as far as insight. So, where that leads him, we'll see. But one thing's for sure, he loves it here, and he's got long-term on his mind.
He's a good one. Please say hey to him. Mike, as are you. Benton on the mic. Thanks for the time, and keep doing a great job, man. We're following out here, enjoying it.
I appreciate it. Anytime, Rod. Thank you.
Mike Benton from Sports Radio KJR out there in Seattle.